Hello everyone. Today I'll be showing how to do a full session with Nina from the very beginning. All right, so um, let's get started. The first thing you need to be connected to your mount using well, I always use OAuth control really. Um, it's not completely necessary, but I always use it. Um, so this is the first thing. You need to be on your home position as well. And then the next thing that you need to do is open Nina. And as well at this point you need to have everything already configured, all your equipment. If you haven't, then you will need to pick it up, pick the particular device or equipment from here from this drop down list. In this case, either the camera or the focuser or guider, telescope in this case will be the mount. You can see also the controls of the mounts and everything else. And then the next thing that you need to do is get polar align. So what you would need to do is open the three-point polar alignment. Um, so let's do that right now. Three-point polar alignment. The beauty of this is that you can start from anywhere in the sky. It doesn't have to be directly pointing at Polaris or any other reference star. Um, so for that, if you're starting from anywhere in the sky, you will need to select this option. You need to turn it on. If not, then you can just leave it off if you're going to start from Polaris. As well, important that you need to have plate solving already configured and set. Let's just do that before we get started. So let's take a look at plate solving. So you go to options and then plate solving. By default is ASTAP. And in here is where you configure the exposure time. So you can do the plate solve, either binding on ISO, depending what type of camera is the one that you have. Some of the tolerances, what will be acceptable. And as well here, if you click on this settings here, you're able to configure a specific thing to ASTAP. This is some of the settings are for the camera and the program itself, but these are for the program only. Um, and as well, if we go to general, sorry, no, equipment. So here is where you will set the other important settings. The pixel size, this should be detected automatically when you connect the camera, uh, but it wouldn't hurt just to double check that is the correct value. And as well here, the focal length. This is very important, and here you don't multiply by crop sensor, micro four thirds, or anything like that. You just enter the true focal length of the telescope or lens that you're using. Focal ratio, I don't think is that important, but I enter it anyways. And the settle time after slew, this is very important. So in this case, the mount has enough time to settle before taking another picture. So in this case, I won't be blurry or anything like that. So then the next thing that we need to do is do the actual three-point polar alignment. So let's go back to this module. And as well in here, configure the settings like exposure, again, ISO, etc., etc. So we need to click just on play. So what it's going to do is going to take a picture, plate solve it, rotate the mount on its own, and then it will continue doing this until it's finished, and then it will give us the total polar alignment error that we need to correct. So in this case, I'll be using as well the Auto PA add-on too, so I don't have to do this manually. Um, by default is 60 arc seconds, and as well this value you can lower it if you wanted to get better precision um, with the polar alignment, but I think it's 1 arc minute. It should be more than enough. And as well, like configuring ENAT to use 1 arc minute as an acceptable value uh, for the process, so it can stop the process on its own. So again, from here you pick the perm they will be using. In this case, Nina. 60 seconds fine, and then we just click on start. So this will start um, reading the log, and we'll do the correction on its own. As you can see, the stars are already trailing, and I don't know if you saw the message there. It said it couldn't plate solve. Definitely not because of the the trails. So there's nothing else to do here but wait. In the meantime, you can perhaps think about what target you be um, shooting, um, and other settings. Um, while we wait for this to finish, one important thing with Nina is that when you're picking the target that you will be looking at or trying to photograph, you need to know the catalog name or number. Unfortunately, for some reason, I don't know why, you can search for the Cygnus wall or the flaming star or the Iris Nebula, things like that, because it doesn't find them. I don't know if there's any setting or something that I'm missing, but I haven't been able to use that, which is unfortunate. Maybe because they are not the official name and some names that people have given them. I don't know. All right, so it looks like it finished. Both the program and Nina closed because it was within range, 1 arc minute, in this case less. You can see the total error. And you don't need to do anything else. In this case, because the mount was live adjusting, so it knows exactly where it's looking at right now. So then the next thing we need to do is pick the target. So for this, what I will do is go to framing. And from here, you will need to select the image source. You can try any of these. Some of those are pretty slow to download an image. Some of them are very high resolution, but this one I find that it works pretty well. So select that one. And this is what I was saying. If, let's say, we look for the Iris Nebula, nothing, no results. For some reason, you can't search for stars either. So if you want to plate solve, let's say, um, to focus, let's say to Capella or Sirius or any other of the stars, for some reason you can search. I don't know, like I said, if there's anything that I'm missing, but I'm being able to do that. So in this case, I'm going to look for this specific target that I know that I can reach. So I click here. This graph at the bottom is telling you at this time how high that target is. So it's less than 30 degrees, but I should be able to reach it at this time. And as well in here, this is automatically set from the settings that you set before. However, you can change it here if by any chance you want to play around. Let's say, what if you put a 200 millimeters lens or a 2000, like one of those Celestron HD or the famous Samyang in 135? You can play around with that. Um, so what you do here is click on load image. So that will connect online and look for this image. So in here, you can drag this frame, which is the frame of the camera, the size of the sensor, so you know um, what you will be looking at, and also gives you a freedom to better frame your targets, right? So it looks nice. Or what if the camera is rotating a different way, right? Let's say for Andromeda, right, or things like that. So that's very useful, really. And if I click on the term rotation from the camera, it's going to take a quick picture. It's going to plate solve it. It's going to give me the rotation of the camera, so I know exactly what I'm looking at. So in this case, it did not change because this is how it was before. But as you can see here, the rotation. And then the next thing you can click is here. So if I click on slew and center, it's going to move to the target, plate solve until it gets it right, exactly how I have it here. Another option, if you click on this little drop down, is a slew. So it will not do plate solving. It will just slew to the target, um, and it should get close enough. Right? If you have star chart or something like that, you can tell if it's close enough for you or not. And last one, slew, center, and rotate. If you have a rotator, you can also rotate the camera, so that will give you, I will say, artistic freedom to better frame your targets. Right. In my case, I have a rotator, but it's manual, so I have to be outside. I'm not going to do that, but that is an option as well. So in this case, I'm just going to click on slew and center. So it's going to start moving the mount. It's going to plate solve until it gets it right. In the meantime, one important thing as well to consider is your focus point. Um, So this is looking pretty good. I went and did my manual focus. I wanted to show as well how to use the autofocus, but I've been having some issues with it. Um, I'm still unsure that the settings that I have, or perhaps uh, the belt that I'm using, I think it might be too stretchy, so it's not working correctly. So I had to do a manual focus. So that's what I'll be showing right now. Um, all right, so it's already in target. So this right here, this star in the middle is the Iris Nebula. So it's getting pretty close to what I wanted. So in this case, because I have no filter, um, it is able to pick up a lot of detail with the very short 2-second exposure. However, when I have a filter, I usually have to increase it to 3 or to 4 because it darkens everything. Maybe I will say at least 2 stops when you have the filter. So it's something as well important to consider if you plan to use like a CLS filter, UHC, or anything similar. And don't worry about these error messages too much. It's still able to work. So I'm just gonna close it, or it will close on its own. All right. So now I have the target frame the way I want it to. So then the next thing I need to do is go back again to framing, and I will be using a template. So there's this YouTuber Patriot Astro, has awesome videos about Nina. If you haven't heard of him, go check him out. It is amazing. It has a lot of videos for sure. So I'm using one of his templates. So what I do here is I click here. Sorry, add target to sequence, and it will give me this drop-down menu. And instead of using the simple sequencer, if I click in here, let me just show what it does. So by default, it will enter the name of the target that you're looking. But also, it will give you other options here at the bottom. You can enter the total number of frames, how long each frame, what type of frame it is, in this case, light or dark or bias or anything similar. If you have any filter, so if you have focus wheel, I'm sorry, filter wheel, so you can set specific filters there, vining or ISO, depending on what type of camera you have. If you want to ditter, how many images, you need to turn it on first, and as well ISO or gain and offset if you have that option with your camera. Other options here and here is autofocus as well. Um, so you can select either after, let's say, half an hour or after 2 hours or things like that. As we all know, that also changes throughout the night. Different temperatures and all that creates different focus points. So that is important as well to consider. Or if not, for example, something like this, where is it the HFR? So if this value changes, it will do it automatically. Let's say if it changes 10% or 15% or whatever value you set, then it will do it automatically without you touching anything. But in this case, I won't be using the simple sequencer. I will be showing the advanced sequencer. But this is basically um, how you can do it as well, right? And the only thing that you have to do after you set all these settings is just click on play. Um, However, let's go back. Let me just delete this one so I won't get confused. There. So let's go to framing, add, add target to sequence, sequencer, and then go to OSC, one shot color. All right, so we're there. So we'll correct here this name, and I usually add the common name so I know without looking at star chart or something what this is. Okay. So this I had to edit quite a few times before, so I'm not going to explain any of these options. As a matter of fact, I'm going to delete them because I'm not going to use them. All right. So important here is, um, so in this case, there are settings, for example, like if you have the option to cool your camera, so you can do that. since I'm doing it, so I'm going to skip that. All right. Um, so this is fine. Oh, here, for example, I can, for example, take the mount during during the evening or dusk or anything like that, and leave it outside just waiting. So when the target reaches, let's say, 30 degrees of height, then the session will start. In the meantime, it will just stay parked. So I don't need to worry about this. I'll keep going. Okay. Um, so here, important here, since I already did the autofocus, I'm just going to delete it. I don't want to do another autofocus session. Here, the guiding, I will need to force the calibration, most definitely. This as well regarding the autofocus, because I don't trust the autofocus right now. I'm just going to delete it, but in there is where you will set those values, right? After a certain number of exposures, if the percentage is higher, then it will do an autofocus run. Dither after number of exposures, I typically dither after 3 exposures. Um, so what this is telling me, the loop until time is telling me that this session will keep running over and over again until 5:43 a.m., which is the dawn, right? So this is the time where probably will be bright enough from the sun that there's no point on keeping this session running. So I'm just gonna leave that. Or if you can set other values here, right? If he reaches, let's say if you know that there is a tree or a house or something like that, you can also set a value that will force it to stop as well, because you know that there's no point to keep going. Then the next thing is the number of frames, right? So I'm going to do 180 seconds. How many frames? Sorry, what type of frame is in this case? Is light, binding 10. Then I will enter the settings for my camera. This is where you will enter them. I could leave this blank because those settings are the default, but just so you know, this is what this will do. And then the next thing that I need to do is just press play. Let me just double check that I'm not missing anything. Oh, yes, this is something very cool. So center after drift. What this does is, let's say there are some clouds and the guide camera loses the star, and the star is drifting apart. Right. Once the clouds clear, the session will keep going. Right. It will keep taking pictures, but you might not be in the set coordinates that you started at the beginning. Right. You don't have the same framing. So what this will do is will plates of an image, and in here you can set a value of what is acceptable of drift. If it's beyond that value, then it will stop guiding, it will stop taking the picture, and it will recenter again. It will plate solve, recenter to this original frame you had, and then it will continue. So what I usually do is I put like after 5 pictures. So this is a pretty cool option here. And as you can see, the next um, thing that it will do, it will be restore guiding. Um, all right, and in here as well, you can set other parameters. If you have a heater, if you um, have a dome, things like that, you can set all those settings in here. And the only thing that you need to do is just drag and drop. You can even send an email, for example, I guess when a session finishes. I never tried that one, but here you have a lot of options for sure. So let's take a quick look before hitting start. Let's click on guiding. Let's see what this is doing. Okay, so that's not good. So that is actually no clouds. I don't know why PHD2 is doing this. So what I usually do is I click on disconnect, connect all, and then we'll start looping frames again. There we go. Honestly, I have no idea why it's doing this, but there you go. That's just how you can solve it. I'm just going to go here, clear the calibration as well, and then let's go back to Nina and we'll click on play. So it's doing plate solving just to ensure that is correctly where it should be. So as you can see, there was some drift in there already. So it's correcting for that. All right. So then the next step is calibrating. So let's take a look here on PhD2. That doesn't look too good because it has not picked a star. So let's do that manually. Let's try it again. There. Let's do guiding there. Okay, so it's still here. Let me show one quick option. Things on the equipment. Okay, so yes, here is where you will configure some of the settings like ditter, how much you would like um, the ditter to move, and as well the settling time, things like that. So I should probably increase that because if I put, um, let's say 5 seconds after a ditter, then it will give me an error. That usually it gives me an error that is not able to settle after drifting, um, after dithering, sorry. So in that way, I don't get those unnecessary errors. Other values as well here. So after ditters, how long it will take as well um, for consider that the dithering was successful. Things like that. So this is where you will configure all these things. So let's go back here. So you can see there was an error here already, which was this one from before because I manually stopped it. Um, well, you already know here what is happening. PhD2 is calibrating the mount, so it knows what kind of corrections we'll need to do for this particular target. Once that is finished, then Nina will start with the session. So I'm just going to leave it there. Another thing as well I wanted to show here is that you can play with this, so you can get more contrast. This is very helpful for sure because it helps to find a better guiding star. So here we go. This is one of the things that I was mentioning before. It's not a critical error. That's why it's in yellow. Probably the scale. Yeah, there it is. So it is going. So it was a little rough at the beginning, but then it's going well now. And Nina should have started by now. Yes, as you can see, the timer is already running. All right. And perhaps the last thing I wanted to show is here you can configure the color palette. So if we go to general, you can configure the settings here. I just selected this theme. And if we go to the imaging tab, you can enable all these options with these options here. You can show them or hide them depending on your needs. Um, and if you wanted to move these different panes or resize them or anything like that, then the only thing that you need to do is, for example, here, I can make this one a little bigger. Let's say I wanted to put this one here, the HFR history. I just drag it, and then this cross will show up. So what this will tell me is on this specific panel where the telescope is, if I drag it here, it will put it at the bottom. You need to keep holding your left click and it will put it in there. And there it is. Same thing with this one with the main window. Same thing with that. Um, so yeah, that's how you use that. Um, you can rearrange it to your needs. And if you, let's say you close this by mistake, then try to get it. Then the only way um, to get it back is you need to look for the option here. It's either on this settings here or this one's here. I apologize if I don't know if it's whether it's left or right. I don't know that my heart, but that's how you do it. That's how you bring it back, right? And if, for example, if I click on autofocus here, I don't know if you noticed, but this tabs change. So I disable it, and if I press it there, then it should bring it back. Hang on. Looks like there's a delay there. There we go. So I brought it back, and then you as well, you can just drag this one to depending where you need it. So in this case, I want it here. All right, and it looks like the first picture is about to finish. There we go. So there you have it. So that's the first picture. Looks like it still need to play a little bit with the autofocus. Doesn't look too in focus to me. Um, but yeah, this is how you go about your session. So once again, I hope you find this video useful, and thank you so much for your time, and clear skies.